Alright guys, so now we have the following task where we have to hide sensitive informations. For example, let's say that the USA data in our dataset is sensitive informations and we have to hide all the customers that comes from USA. And now we're gonna go and build a view from the customers. We're gonna take the location, the country, and then let's say we're gonna take the profit from the orders. Alright, so now as you can see in the worksheet, we can see all the countries including USA. So now we're gonna go and hide this sensitive information. In order to do that, we're gonna go to the data source page, and then here on the corner on the top right, we can see filters and we can add a new filter. So let's go and click on it. Then we will get a new window called Edit Data Source Filters. It's really easy. Here we're gonna go to the ads, click on it, and then we're gonna get a list of all the fields that are available in our data source. So since we have to hide the customers from USA, we need the field country. So let's go and check that over here, then click next. And here we got another window to set up the filter for the country. So as you can see, we have all the countries here listed. And now we can go and select the countries that should be included in our datasets, or we can go over here and click exclude, and we're gonna exclude the USA. So that means we are filtering out all the customers with the country equals to USA. So let's go and click OK. Now we can see over here a quick information. So the filter is based on the country, and the details is saying we are keeping the values France, Germany and Italy. So that's it. Let's click OK. Let's go now and check the data in our worksheet. So we're gonna switch back to our view, and as you can see, we cannot find any information about USA. And this can affect as well all the worksheets that are connected to this data source. So for example, if we go over here and create a new worksheet and we take the countries, drag and drop it over here, you can see again here as well, we don't have the USA, we have the values France, Germany and Italy. And with that, we have protected this sensitive information. Alright guys, moving on to another use case of the data source is to reduce the size of data inside Tableau. This is very critical. If you have a bad performance in Tableau, then you have to start thinking about how to reduce the size of data inside our visualizations. And the first step to reduce the size of our data, we have to decide which fields we're gonna use in order to filter our data. A very common and usual field is that we can reduce the number of years inside our data source. Let's go and build a view. So I'm just gonna go and create a new worksheet. Let's take the order dates to the rows, and let's take the profits to the columns. And then let's make it as a bar diagram and show the results. So as you can see, we have inside our data 5 years of data. So here this field is really good candidate in order to reduce the data, and you have to go and discuss it with your users. So you have to ask, do we really need 5 years of data inside the visualizations? Is it enough to have only like the last 2 years or 3 years? So let's say that after discussions with the users, you said the relevant data for the visualizations is starting from 2020. So anything before is not relevant anymore for the visualizations. We would like to have everything starting from 2020. So in order to do that, we're gonna go and build a data source filter. So let's go back to our data source page. We're gonna go again over here. So let's go to the edit, and then we're gonna go and choose the field that we're gonna build the data source filter on top of it. So go to add, and then we need the order date. So we have it over here. Let's go and select it. Okay. And here, since it is a date, Tableau gonna ask us first in which format you want to build your filter. Since we are discussing about the years, so we are interested in the years. I'm just gonna go with the format years and go next. So now with that, we got a list of all years inside our data source. So either you're gonna go and say, okay, I would like to include everything starting from 2020 and not select the old years, or you're gonna say, you know what, I'm just gonna exclude the last 2 years, anything before 2020. So you're gonna go with the exclude, and with that we are removing the old years. I prefer this one over here, since let's say that we get 2023 data inside our data source, you don't have to each time to go and click on it. So with that, we are saying all the data are relevant starting from 2020. Let's go and hit OK. And with that, you can see inside our data source filters, we got a new filter based on the years of order date. And here you can see some details. It says it keeps 2020, 2021 and 2022. So with that, we are filtering now the data source based of the order dates and the country. Let's go and hit OK. And as you can see here, we have now 2 filters in the data source. Let's go back to our view, sheet 7. and we can see that we have only the data starting from 2020. All old data are not presented anymore inside our visualizations, which is really great way in order to reduce the stress and the size of data that Tableau has to handle. So with that, we are reducing the scope of data, and as well we are gonna get great performance in Tableau. So this is how we use the data source filters in order to reduce the size of our data and as well to hide the sensitive informations. But here don't forget that all the worksheets that are connected to this data source gonna be affected with those filters. Alright, so now we're gonna learn how to build a context filter in Tableau. Let's say that we have the following view. We're gonna have the category from the products and as well the subcategory. And let's take for the measure the profits. So let's take it over here. And as well, let's change the colors. So we're gonna put it over here as well. So now in this view, we have all the categories: furniture, office supplies, and technology. But the users want in this view to focus only on the office supplies. And for this specific view, all the other categories are irrelevant informations. So they want only to focus on the office supplies by profits. So that means we want to filter the data by category. In order to do that, we're gonna go to the category over here, hold Control and put it on the filters. And then we're gonna get again the same window for filtering, and here you can see the three values: furniture, office supplies, and technology. For this view we want only the office supplies, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna remove the others and leave the office supply, then hit OK. So as you can see now, we removed everything and we have only the one category, the office supplies. The job is done, right? So we have the office supplies by profits and we filter the data. The answer is yes, the task is done, but we are not using the full power of Tableau. Since here the focus is only about the office supplies and we are focusing on this subset of data, we could go and reduce the whole data sets to only this category. And with that, you're gonna win a lot of performance in Tableau because you are focusing only on subsets and all other data is removed from this visualization. So in such a scenario, we can go and use the power of context filters. So now the question is how to make our filter as a context filter. So as you can see now in the filters, we have our category, it is blue pill and it is as well a dimension. So this filter type called dimension filter. In order now to promote it to the context filter, as we learned before, that we have specific order of the filters, we have context, then dimension. All what we have to do is to right click on it, and here we have the option of adding to context. Once you do it, you will see that our filter now has the gray pill. The gray pills indicates that this filter is a context filter. So now you might notice nothing changed over here. We have exactly the same view, but we optimized the background in Tableau where we created a temporal datasets and it has only the category office supplies. So it's really small table compared to the whole data source. Alright, so now I want to show you how Tableau process the different types of filters. As we learned, the order of the filters are really important. So that means the context filter gonna be processed first, then the dimension filter. So the context filter is dominating the behavior of the dimension filter. Alright, so now we're gonna go and add dimension filter in our visualization. We're gonna use the subcategory in order to do that. So right click on it and click over here, show filter. So as you can see on the right side, we have all those values that are included in the office supplies. But in our original data source, we have way more subcategories as we are seeing now from this view. And this is exactly the effect of the context filter on this dimension filter. So we are seeing only the values inside this context. Alright, so now we're gonna go and change the definition of the context filter and see the effect on the dimension filter. So let's go again to our context filter, right click on it and edit filter. Let's bring it here side by side to our dimension filter. So we have only those values and we have over here on the context filter only the office supplies. If we go now and include as well the technology, let's apply and see that on the right side the value is gonna change. So let's go there. And now as you can see in the dimension filter subcategories on the right side, we have more values than before because we included in our context in our temporal table the technology data. So we can go and change the values around. So let's have only the furniture, check the right side, apply, and you can see we have only 4 subcategories. So with this you can see that the context filter is really dominating all other filters below it. So understanding the order of the filters, you can understand how Tableau works with those different types of filters. So now I'm gonna bring the context filter again to the office supplies and hit OK. And one more thing about the context filter, as we learned before, it is flexible. That means we can reduce the size of data only for one worksheet. So that means if you go to any other worksheets, you will not find here any context filter. So you can go and decide for each worksheet whether you want to reduce the size of data or not. Unlike the data source filter, where it's going to affect the whole workbook, any worksheet that is connected to this data source. So with the context filter, we have way more flexibility. And now you might ask, can we use the context filter to hide sensitive informations? Well, the answer is no. Let me show you why. Let's have a quick example. Let's take the customers again, and we have the country, city, and let's take as well the profits. So as you can see over here, we don't have the USA data because we have the filter data source. And now let's say that the data of Germany is now sensitive and we want to protect it using the context filter. So let's go and do that. So we're gonna take the countries, hold Control and put it on the filters. And we're gonna say we want to exclude Germany. So I'm gonna click over here on the exclude, and then hit OK. As you can see now in the view, we don't have any informations about Germany, and we go and promote the country to context filter. So right click on it and add to context. And now you might say, okay, everything is fine. We don't have any informations about Germany, so we are secure. Well, not really. There is still a way in order to see the German data in the view. Let me show you how. If you go to the city over here and let's show it as a filter, on the right side you will find all the cities from France and Italy. So there is no cities from Germany or USA. But here we have an option on the filter. So if you go to this small arrow over here, then we can go over here and say all the values from the database. I'm gonna explain all those options later, don't worry about it, but let's go and click over here. So now as you can see, the filter is showing data about Germany. We have Berlin, we have Stuttgart. So that means the data are not really protected. So that means we are hiding the sensitive data from the view, but still we can see all the values from the filter. That's why never use context filter to protect your sensitive data or confidential data. Because even if we are seeing the data only in the filters, it's still exposing the data and the data is not protected. So that means if you want to protect your data and hide the sensitive informations, use only data source filters. Alright, so now we're gonna move to the next filter in our chain. We have the dimension filter. We have already created some dimension filter in our view, but now let's go in details and see all the options that we have. Alright, so now let's go to the filters on these shelves, and you can see that we have the subcategory. It is a discrete dimension. That's why we have the color of blue. And now in order to see all the options, right click on it and edit filter. And now you already know this window. Let's just bring it over here to see the effect directly in the view. So first we have here different tabs. The first one is gonna be about the manual selection, and the rest gonna be a dynamic filter. So here we have 4 tabs: General, Wildcards, Condition, and Top. So the first one is going to be the manual selection of the values, and the rest is going to be like you are defining a rule, and the filter going to be dynamic. So here as usual, since it's discrete, we're going to see the list of all possible values that we can see, and then you can go and manually select or deselect values from this list. And as you can see on the right side, we have exclude. The default in Tableau is include. So that means anything that I'm selecting from this list, it's going to be included in the view, and anything that I'm not selecting, it's going to be excluded from the view. In order to have the opposite effects, what we can do, we can click on exclude, and now we're going to have all the values that are selected are crossed out. So that means they are excluded from the view, and everything that is not selected going to be included in the view. So here it really depends. If you want to exclude only 2 values from a long list, then it makes sense to go and use exclude. So now if you go and select apply, you can see in the view the remaining values are application, art, and binders. So Tableau did exclude all those values. And you're gonna have the same effect if you deselect the exclude and select only the application, art, and binders. And in order to remove our selections, we can remove everything from here, so select none, and we can reapply our selection on the application, art, and binders. And as you can see, we're gonna have the same effect. So this is how you work with the manual selection at the first tab, General. But now let's move to the next one, and before that I want to include everything over here so we don't affect the next one. So let's apply, and then we go to the wildcard. So here we're gonna work with the wildcard. If you have a dimension with high cardinality, that means you have a long list of all possible values in the dimension, and if you go and select manually everything, it's gonna be really painful. So instead of that, we can go and define the rule if there is a rule to define. So here we have like an input field. We can write something like, for example, A. So here we have 4 options. The first one is contains. It gonna means that somewhere in the word there is a character A. And then the second option we have start with. It's gonna means that the word gonna start with the character A. The next one is exactly the opposite. It's gonna end with A. Then the next one we have exactly matches. That means the word should contain only the value A. So let's start with the first one. If the word contains A somewhere, then it's gonna stay in the visualization. Now as you can see, all the words contains A somewhere. So the application, we have it here at the start and at the middle, art as well at the start, and here we have it in the middle, and so on. Let's try out the second one. It's gonna say if the word starts with A, it's gonna stay in the view. So let's hit apply. So as you can see, we have only two words that starts with A. Alright, so now let's go to the next option. We're gonna have ends with, but instead of A, we're gonna have S. So any words ends with S gonna stay in the view. So let's apply that. And as you can see, all those words ends with the character S. Well, now you might ask, is it a case sensitive? Well, it's not. So if you have a big S, as you can see, it's still Tableau gonna select those values. And now let's go to the last one. It's gonna be exact match. So if you go over here and select OK, you will not see any data, but if you have exactly labels and hit apply, you will get only one subcategory. It is the labels, but we don't use it usually. We use contains or start with, ends with. So this is how the wildcard works. Let's clear everything in order to have the data. So we have it contains and hit apply. Now let's move to the next tab. We have a condition. In the previous tutorials with the parameters, we have already worked with the conditions and top. So here what we're gonna do, we're gonna define the rule and Tableau gonna go and check all the values and filter out all the values that are not meeting this condition. So for example, if you are checking our view, we have some minus values in the profit and we don't want to see it. So we will go and define a rule that we want to see all the profits that are higher than 0. So only the positive profits. In order to do that, we're gonna select over here by field. Tableau gonna show you immediately the measure that is using in the view. So we are using the profit, sum is correct. So we're gonna go over here and say the sum of the profit should be higher than 0. So with that, you have defined the rule and let's hit apply. So as you can see, we have just removed the subcategory that does not fulfill this condition. So that's it. This is really easy. We're gonna move to the next one, but first let's reset everything. So we're gonna select none and then we're gonna hit apply. In this tab, we can define if we want to see the top 10 products or 5 products, or the lowest or the bottom 5 products. So here again, we have to define the rule for Tableau and Tableau gonna filter the data based on our rule. So here we have two options. Either we have the top subcategories or the bottom subcategories. So let's go by field over here. And then here we have two options, as I said, top and bottom. And then we're gonna define, is it top 10, is it top 5 or top parameters as we learned before. And here we're gonna stay with the same since we are using the profit, and that's it. Let's hit apply. And now we can see on the view that Tableau did filter our view based on our rule. So now we have the top 5 subcategories. Alright, so that's it. This is the different options on how to filter the dimensions. I'm gonna deselect everything over here and then we're gonna go to the manual selection and then hit OK. So instead of predefining the rules for the users, we're gonna offer the whole dimension as a quick filter for the end user. And as you know, in order to do that, we're gonna go to the dimension, right click on it and show filter. So the user is gonna go to the quick filter on the right side and start selecting the values that suits their needs. Alright guys, so now let's move to the next one. We have the measure filter. As we learned in the order chain, it is below the dimension filter. So let's see how we can create a measure filter. Alright, so in order to create a measure filter, we're gonna go to the sum of profits. Let's hold Control, drag and drop it to the filters. Then we're gonna get a new window in order to configure our filter. And since it is continuous measure, Tableau gonna ask us, do you want to filter the original data, all values, or do you want to do the aggregations and then do the filters? So since it's measure, we have the following aggregations like sum, average, median, and so on. Or if you want to do only the filter on the original data, then you're gonna go and select all values. But since we have sum of profit, I would like to go with the sum aggregation. So let's select that and then go with next. And now we're gonna get a new window in order to configure our measure. And here we have 4 options: range of values, at least, at most, and special. Since our measure is continuous, Tableau gonna present it as a range. It has a start and end. So it's not like the dimensions where we're gonna get a list of all values from the data source. We will get only aggregated data and we can configure only start and end. So in the first option, we can configure the starting point of the range and as well the end point of the range. So you can control both of them. In the next one, we can control only one of them, only the starting point. So at least here we can specify what is the minimum value that is allowed in the visualizations. And the next one is going to be exactly the opposite. At most, we can define the endpoint of the range. What is the highest value that is allowed in the visualizations? So again, the range of values, we can specify the start and the end. At least we can specify only the starting point, and at most we can specify only the endpoint of our range. Then the last one, the special, is about the null values. So here we have three options. Null values, if only you want to see the null values from this filter. Null values, that means you don't want to see any nulls inside our data, or all values, you are allowing both of them. So as a default, we stay with all values. I'm gonna stick with that, and I would like to configure both of the end and the start of our continuous measure. So that's it. As you can see, it's really easy. Let's go and hit OK, and with that you can see we got a new filters inside our filters, and it has of course the green color. Alright, so first we're gonna go to our measure filter and show it as a quick filter. So right click on it and show filter, and now we can see the range on the right side. Let's just make it a little bit bigger to see the range. So now as you can see, we have start and end, but it is not completely for the whole bar. Here Tableau want to show you that we are not showing all the values, we are showing only the range of the subset. So now what can happen if we take the end to the right and the end to the left? Nothing gonna happen on the view, we're gonna have exactly the same data, but here we can see in our range there is different colors. The light part gonna indicate that if you change the values here, nothing gonna happen in the view. So as you can see, if I just move it over here, the view will not be filtered. And now if I start moving the start inside the dark parts, you can see that now we have an effect on the view. So the dark color in the slider is the relevant values, and the light part is the irrelevant values. Alright guys, so now we're going to talk about the last type of filters in Tableau, the table calculation filter. It is the bottom of the chain, and you can see each type of filter is going to have an effect on this type. Alright, so now let's learn how to build table calculation filter, and as the name suggests, it is a calculation, and we're going to have a whole section on how to create calculations in Tableau. So now don't worry about the details how to create calculations in Tableau, just follow me with the steps now. Alright, so now we're going to go to our measure in the marks, right click on it. And then here we have the option of quick table calculations, and then we're gonna have a list of all different calculations that we can do it on the table. And now we will go with the percent of total, so let's select that, and now we can see a small icon to the measure. It indicates that this is a table calculation. So hold Control, drag and drop it on the filters and release. So here, since it's a continuous field, we have to define it as a range, so let's click OK. And now we can see in the filters two measures for the same field. The first one without triangle icon, it means it is a measure filter, and the second one with the triangle icon, it means it is table calculation filter. So what we can do with that, we can offer it to the users. So we're gonna right click on it and show filter. We can see it now as a quick filter on the right side, and the user can go and use the filter. So that's all about the table calculations filter. Alright, so with this we have learned the different types of filters in Tableau and how the order of the filter in the chain gonna affect each others. Alright, so now let's have a quick summary. We're gonna start with the extract filter at the top. We can use it only on the extract connections, and we cannot find it in the Tableau public version. Don't worry about it, it is very similar to the data source filter. And then next we're gonna have the data source filter. In order to create it, we go to the data source page, and here in our example we created two data source filters. The first one is to hide the sensitive informations of the country USA, and the second one to reduce the overall size of our datasets. And don't forget that the data source filter gonna affect the whole workbook, all worksheets that are connected to this data source. Then the next filters, we can create them all in the worksheet page. So let's go over there. So here you can see very nicely how the different types of filters are sorted in the filter shelves. The first one, we have the context filter, the gray pill. Context filter gonna create a subset of data or a temporal table only for this view. So it is something locally only for this view. But don't forget, do not use context filter in order to hide or protect sensitive informations, since there is possibility to show the values in the filters. The next three filters, we usually offer it to the end users in order to slice and dice the visualizations, so the users could use it to specify a subset of data to make focus analyses. So next we have the dimension filter, like the subcategory. After that we have the measure filter, and the last one in the chain, we have the table calculation filter. And since those different types of filters has a logical order, it would be nice as well to have this order on the quick filters on the right side. So it makes sense to have the dimension filter at the top, then we're gonna take the measure filter as the next, and the last one gonna be the table calculation filter. Alright, so that's all. It could be confusing at the start, but now after you understand how Tableau works and the logical order of the filters, everything then gonna make sense in the visualizations. Alright, so with that we have learned how to create different types of filters in Tableau, and next we will learn how to apply filters to multiple worksheets in Tableau. And if you like my content and you want to support the channel, then I really appreciate it if you support, like and comment. This really gonna help the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.